To understand this war, it is necessary to trace the very different historical paths of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Rwanda, a small but densely populated state in the Great Lakes region, endured one of the 20th century's most horrific tragedies when the 1994 genocide claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands. In the chaos that followed, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF, led by Paul Kagame, seized control and established a new political order. Kagame's government centralized authority, promoted rapid economic growth, and presented Rwanda as a disciplined, stable, and forward-looking state. Yet behind this image of modernization lay a highly securitized regime that maintained tight domestic control and repeatedly projected military power beyond Rwanda's borders. Much of Rwanda's regional strategy was shaped by the presence of hostile militias operating in eastern Congo. Among them, the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, FDLR, composed in part of Hutu extremists who had fled after the genocide, was considered an existential threat by Kigali. For Kagame's government, Eastern Congo was not just a neighbor's territory, but a buffer zone to be managed through influence, alliances, and when necessary, direct intervention. Rwanda's involvement in Congolese conflicts thus combined a genuine security rationale with a strategic ambition to expand regional clout. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, by contrast, carried the scars of chronic instability. From the late 19th century, when King Leopold II of Belgium exploited the Congo Free State as a personal fiefdom, the country suffered one of the most brutal forms of colonial rule in history. Millions died under forced labor regimes, and Congo's resources were extracted with little regard for human life. Independence in 1960 was followed by immediate turmoil, including the assassination of Patrice Lumumba and the rise of Mobutu Sese Seko, who ruled for 3 decades through authoritarianism, corruption, and clientelism. Mobutu's fall in 1997 triggered the First and Second Congo Wars, conflicts that drew in nearly every country in the region, including Rwanda, and caused millions of deaths. Although Joseph Kabila and later Felix Tshisekedi attempted to rebuild state institutions, the Congolese government never established full control over its vast eastern provinces. Instead, dozens of armed groups flourished, some pursuing local grievances, others tied to neighboring states, and still others connected to illicit mineral networks. By the early 2020s, Eastern Congo was a patchwork of competing militias, fragile ceasefires, and unresolved grievances, an environment ripe for renewed war. The roots of the current conflict lie in the aftermath of Rwanda's genocide. When Hutu militias responsible for mass killings fled across the border into Congo in 1994, they found sanctuary in a region already weakly governed. Over time, the FDLR entrenched itself in Congolese territory, conducting raids against Rwanda and embedding itself in local conflicts. Kigali repeatedly cited the FDLR's presence as justification for its interventions in Congo. Yet to many Congolese, these incursions were less about security and more about plunder, particularly the exploitation of coltan, cobalt, and gold, resources that had become central to the global economy. The immediate spark for the 2022 to 2025 war came with the reemergence of the March 23 movement, M23, a Tutsi-led rebel group previously defeated in 2013. In late 2021 and early 2022, M23 resurfaced with striking strength, quickly capturing towns in North Kivu. The Congolese government accused Rwanda of arming, financing, and directing the group, charges that Rwanda firmly denied. Yet the sophistication of M23's offensives, its access to advanced weaponry, and its ability to outmaneuver the Congolese military strongly suggested external support. By 2023, M23 controlled significant territory, and the conflict had escalated into a broader confrontation, displacing hundreds of thousands. The war in eastern Congo has never been a purely local affair. Congo's vast mineral resources, particularly cobalt, copper, coltan, and lithium, place it at the center of global strategic competition. These resources are indispensable for electric vehicles, smartphones, renewable energy technologies, and advanced weaponry. Control of Congo's mines is not only a matter of local survival, but also of international power. China has entrenched itself as the dominant economic player in Congo through decades of mining investments and infrastructure for minerals agreements. Chinese companies operate or finance many of the largest cobalt and copper mines, securing Beijing's grip on supply chains essential for its green technology ambitions. As the war escalated, China avoided direct military involvement but worked to protect its mining concessions, urging Kinshasa to ensure that Chinese projects remained operational despite the fighting. The United States, meanwhile, increasingly viewed the Congo conflict through the prism of great power rivalry with China. Washington recognized that U.S. access to cobalt and other critical minerals was at risk in a Chinese-dominated supply chain. The Biden administration, supported President Tshisekedi, condemned Rwanda's role in the war, sanctioned Rwandan officials tied to M23, and lobbied for regional negotiations. The conflict thus took on the character of a proxy war. Rwanda, while pursuing its own strategic goals, indirectly aligned with Western corporations eager for alternatives to China. Congo, in turn, leaned on U.S. and European backing to resist Rwandan advances and safeguard state sovereignty. Regionally, other African states were drawn in. Burundi openly sided with Kinshasa, deploying forces to fight alongside Congolese troops. Uganda maintained an ambiguous position, balancing between its historical rivalry with Rwanda and its growing economic interests in Congo. The African Union attempted mediation, but with limited success. The United Nations mission in Congo, MONUSCO, remained on the ground, though widely criticized for its inability to prevent M23's gains. While its peacekeepers provided humanitarian support and some deterrence, real diplomatic leverage lay with Washington and Beijing. In 2025, the balance of power in eastern Congo has shifted dramatically. Rwanda and its proxy, the M23 movement, entered peace talks from a position of military strength after seizing Goma in January and Bukavu in February, two of the most important urban centers in North and South Kivu. These gains crippled Kinshasa's ability to project authority in the region and underscored Rwanda's direct role, with a United Nations report confirming that at least 6,000 Rwandan soldiers were deployed on Congolese territory to bolster M23 offensives with training, drones, and heavy weaponry. Economic leverage has further tilted the scales. In 2024, M23 captured the Rubaya coltan mine, which supplies roughly 15% of global coltan, a mineral essential for electronics. For now, Rwanda and M23 are clearly winning. Their control of territory, supply chains, and mineral corridors gives them both military dominance and political leverage. The Congolese state, weakened on the battlefield and dependent on external mediation, has little to offer in negotiations beyond promises of reform. Lasting peace will depend on disarming militias, securing the mineral trade, and strengthening Kinshasa's governance over its eastern provinces. Without these steps, the cycle of conflict, foreign interference, and resource exploitation will continue.